And we are live. How's it going, everyone? Today we have a very special guest focused on bringing AAA gaming to Web3. This consists of a play-to-earn metaverse where users will collect Nyans and Guardian robots while participating in a third-person shooter open economy. So there's a lot going on here, but luckily we have Max Fu, founder, producer, and head of operations at Nyan Heroes to walk us through all of this. How's it going, Max?
Hey, nice to meet you, Greg. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing to have you on. And I think what truly makes what you guys are building at Nyan Heroes special is the team's experience and notably your experience of 8 years of community and media experience, notably at Tiny Unicorn Media. I'm curious just to start, what makes you so confident that you guys can build a AAA game and hook it up to an open economy?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for bringing me on the show.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we have a really diverse team that we've been putting together over the last, 4 to 5 months. And obviously, it started with myself and my co-founder. And as you mentioned, we have experience in community building, digital marketing, digital content. That's kind of where our bread and butter has been for the last 8 years of my sort of working experience. And yeah, we just love building digital communities and we love creating content. We love talking to our communities. We've built about 8 different communities from the ground up. A couple of them are gaming communities. We currently have over 30 million followers across all our platforms combined. And so, I think we have, a really good position in the digital economy and the digital ecosystem at the moment. And so what we've been really focused on in the last, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks has really been putting together a top tier game development team to carry through the gaming side of things. Because, I do have a little bit of experience in game dev, but I wouldn't say that I come from any, AAA game development studio. So we really, it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about getting people that are smarter than you that are able to then, take your ideas and bring them to life. So we've managed to put together, we currently have a team of around 25 people, of which 15 are in the game dev side of things. And they all come from AAA backgrounds, anywhere between 8 to 20 years of experience individually with multiple shipped AAA titles. So I think this sort of, convergence between the digital community building with the AAA game development experience that the rest of the team brings is what gives me confidence that, our project can succeed.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm just looking here on Twitter with your guys' announcement. And just to put out some names, there's experience from EA, Riot Games, Ubisoft, Respawn. So all of these things are what you're talking about of building up this team. And I like how you mentioned you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. It's really filling the room with all of those smart people and leveraging what you're good at. And yeah, I got a little excited and jumped right into the team because I think this is something very notable in GameFi specifically. We've seen a lot of non-gaming, traditional gaming natives try to jump into the crypto space and build games. And a lot of these things just look like, for lack of better terms, a glorified yield farm. They just have a couple extra steps or buttons clicked up to more or less what we saw in the food craze of DeFi summer. So I get really excited when I see actual Web3 gaming teams that have experience not only in traditional gaming, but also in crypto as well, and really can bring this all together and make it. Because making a game is hard, making a economy in a game is hard, and then also you have to now have someone who can code up these smart contracts, make sure they're all secure. So there's a ton of layers here, and that's why I just really wanted to jump in and get started with the team. To keep moving forward here, for anyone who may not be familiar with Nyan Heroes, do you want to give an outline of what you guys are building and what the goal is behind the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, from a product point of view, from a game perspective, the game that we're building essentially is a battle royale shooter. So, if you know games like Fortnite or PUBG or Apex Legends, that's a really good scaffolding of how to think our game might potentially play out. So, it's a third-person shooter. So, the camera angle is going to be something like Fortnite and PUBG. But we do have our individual character classes, So we have multiple characters. We've revealed 4 of the different playable classes so far. So we have the assassin, the medic, the tank, and the warrior. And so much like games like Apex Legends, you do actually have selectable classes of characters that can then bring on another element of gameplay into Battle Royale. And so just like most Battle Royales, we drop onto a map. We have a 60-person lobby with 20 teams of 3. Players drop onto a map in their teams of 3. They loot, they find other teams, they battle, they win, and then the last team standing wins the entire Battle Royale. So very standard kind of game format, but it's something that surprisingly I haven't seen too many other projects try and adopt, which is very curious to me because I'm a big Battle Royale fan. I love playing all of these games. It is one of the hottest genres out right now when you consider platforms like Twitch, YouTube gaming, Facebook gaming. So I'm honestly surprised why there are so few sort of Battle Royale shooters out there. But that's the kind of gameplay that we're looking to produce, and we are, as I mentioned, we've put together a AAA team. So the gameplay quality we're aiming for is also AAA quality.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think the big piece to this, right, is people might come and say, "Oh, cool, another Battle Royale. Why would I not go play something like Apex Legends or Fortnite, of course?" But then there's this element of open economy and getting into all of this. I think we'll jump into this a little bit later, but not only will you guys have PvP, will you guys also have PvE elements in the game as well? Kind of more grinding mission based things to earn loot and other types of items?
Yes, we will. So initially, what we're going to be launching is our Battle Royale gameplay, which is mostly going to be PvP. But we are actually, with our game designers at the moment, we're discussing in the works, potentially including some PvE elements within the Battle Royale, because that's something that Apex Legends has introduced recently, where you have like little mobs that spawn within the map as well. So it just adds a little extra dimension to the gameplay. But for the most part, the Battle Royale is going to be PvP focused. That's going to be the first milestone, the first sort of game project that we launch. And then later on, once that's up and running, we will be looking to expand more game modes. So we're going to be introducing an open world game mode as well. So more like an MMO where players will actually be able to take their character, explore the open world, fight AI controlled enemies, get loot, team up with their friends, team up with guilds, go on raid boss missions and things like that. So much more like an MMO kind of gameplay mode. And that's where the guilds will actually sort of take more effect with that kind of gameplay mode, with the land gameplay coming in. And the integration with guilds, the borrowing and the lending and all that stuff. I mean, there will still be elements of guilds and borrowing and lending in the PvP, but I think it'll really come to life in the PvE game modes.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to try to push a little bit further here on these guilds and sort of this MMO or RPG sort of open world format you're touching on. I know it's a little bit further out, but I'm curious, can you sort of outline the aspects, the metagame aspects that a guild will have? Will there be sort of massive guild battles? What will be the goal of these and the outcome for those who win those battles?
Yeah, so for both of our separate game modes, for the Battle Royale, we do see guilds playing like quite a pivotal role, but more in the sense of like esports organizations perspective. And then from the open world game mode, they have a different role where it's more farming based. So that's kind of like the high level split of how it's going to play out. But so dealing with like the PvP, the Battle Royale mode first, we do see guilds playing a role in terms of like potentially becoming these esports organizations where they have, these players that they're able, or scholars at the moment, they're able to cultivate these scholars through their guilds, through, training programs and coaching programs and whatnot, and improve their skill level. Because at the end of the day, with our Battle Royale, we are going to be rewarding players via their skill level. People with more skill, people who are able to rank up high in our ranked mode, go from bronze all the way to diamond and then above. Like, these are the players that are going to be getting more of the rewards as the matches finish. And then in the same way, we can implement guilds as a form of esports organizations where they will get access to varying levels of basically tournaments. So we're going to host, a whole range of different tournaments. They might range from, a good way to think about it might be, little leagues, junior leagues, all the way up to, the big leagues. And, that's basically, so we're going to essentially make, the little leagues and everything available to everyone of any different skill levels. So even bronze players or whatever can join. But then obviously the rewards will be scaled relative to that league size. So this is where the guilds can potentially come in. They'll be able to cultivate some of the more talented players. It's not, restricted to guilds necessarily, but that's where I see the guilds taking more impact, because they'll be out there trying to, I guess, vet, the highly skilled players to join their guilds and then participate in our big league tournaments. And that's where, the prize pools are going to be a lot larger. So that's kind of like the battle royale segment. And then we have the open world, which is like an MMORPG type style. And this is where the guilds will be able to set up, their land, actually integrate people into their guild. So every land plot will allow a certain number of guild members to be integrated into the in-game guild. And so in order to expand your guild, you want to have more and more land plots in order to build upon, but also to basically onboard more people into your in-game guild. And then through that land, we'll be able to basically take on guild quests, boss raids, collect loot, and basically utilize, the full force of the guild and the farming to actually be able to gain in-game resources and rewards.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just to jump back over, because we will be expecting more of this PvP and Battle Royale first. This is exciting, right? This is a similar sort of, even just, there was a brief period where I was playing Fortnite still for a little bit, and they had something similar like these tournaments based on your rating. So it sounds like you guys are definitely looking at what's working in other games and looking to improve them. I think, again, just touching on this, and this sparked two questions out of what you just said that I have, but I'll follow them up one at a time. But again, you guys are incorporating this piece of open economy. So you're in there, you're grinding this game, you're not earning skins or even in-game rewards that don't have any tangible value. You can't translate this into any value. In Nyan Heroes, if you are grinding, if you're successful, you will be able to translate some of these earnings into tangible assets, and kind of do what you please with them, whether you want to transfer them over to other games or just keep stacking them up and grinding, which is super interesting. And that's kind of the whole idea behind Web3 gaming and open economy, that users own their assets. So that's a roundabout way of getting to this question. But I personally think nailing these open economies is going to be difficult. How does Nyan Heroes aim to create a sustainable economy? And then I have another follow-up on that, but I'll let you take that one first.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, one of the main reasons why we even started this project in the first place was because when I started looking at the play-to-earn economies that were out there, like 6 to 9 months ago, there was a huge issue that came up in my mind, which is, where's the money coming from and how is that sustainable? And obviously, I'm not going to be here and name names, but there are a lot of projects out there that are built on some kind of vague Ponzonomic tokenomic scheme, right? Where you do need to onboard more players in order to maintain the value of their in-game, utility tokens or assets or whatever it is that happens to be selling. And so we looked at this model, and it was, we didn't really think this was sustainable in the long term. And obviously right now there are only a couple of games to choose from. But what happens in the future, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, when there are literally hundreds of games available? How is a game that is reliant on Ponzonomics going to sustain their daily active user growth when there's so many projects to choose from? So that was the main issue that we came up against. So the way that we design our tokenomics to be sustainable for the long term is essentially like what we see it as, like a dual kind of demographic, which is what we're targeting. So obviously on one hand, there's the play to earn demographic, and that is what everyone is familiar with in Web3 and crypto gaming. It's the ability to play a game and earn money, obviously extremely strong marketing tool because everyone wants to play games and earn money at the end of the day. And so really, like, attracting that kind of demographic is not terribly difficult, right? Because it's more financially driven. So what we've designed is that's only one side of the coin for us. The other side of the coin, which is why we're developing, which is why we're putting gameplay first in our project, and why we're developing, a high quality game, AAA gameplay, is that we really want to attract the other demographic, which is the traditional gaming market. It's the Web2 gamers that, why do they play games? They don't play games to earn money. They play games because they want to escape from reality. They play games because they enjoy the game mechanics. They want to immerse themselves into a new lore, a new storyline, immerse themselves in a community that is fundamentally enjoyable at the end of the day. When you look at these games like, Fortnite or League of Legends or whatever it happens to be, they're free to play. But because players love the game so much, they spend hundreds of thousands of hours playing these games, they are then, emotionally invested, and they're happy to spend their disposable income on various in-game assets. And for the most part, these assets are skins. They're functionally useless in-game. They don't really do anything, but they're enjoyable to look at. And that's because the player just loves the game. And that's where most of the revenue comes from with these games. They come from skins, loot boxes, loot crates, battle passes, things like that. And so in order for, that's kind of the other side of the coin, the other demographic that we will be targeting through our game design. Like that's why we're creating a AAA game, just because we want to attract these people. And so what we essentially are doing is we're creating a free-to-play economy where we adopt a freemium model so that these true fans, true supporters of our game, traditional gamers that truly love our game, will actually be happy to spend their disposable income. They're most likely going to be from developed countries like, the US, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Germany, UK. These are the, Gen Zs and millennials that have disposable income and happy to spend it on something that they enjoy. And that is going to become an actual real revenue generating model. And so when you ask the question, where does the money come from? It comes from real revenue generation and value accrual. What happens is this revenue will then go into our in-game treasury, and then we're going to essentially use this treasury to subsidize the earning capacity of the other demographic that we're targeting, which is the play-to-earn community. And so in that way, we have this symbiotic relationship where we not only have outflows, which is what every play-to-earn game currently has, but we also have real inflows. And so in this way, we don't need to have this constant pressure to increase our daily active users every day, every month, every, quarter. And otherwise the economy suddenly unwinds, right? We don't have this pressure because, if we are able, obviously we want to grow anyway, like that's the goal of any game, but we're not reliant on it to be sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, that's awesome and amazing to hear, right? It really just comes down to the fact, and being someone who grew up playing a ton of games myself, like over 10,000 hours on CSGO, playing a ton of League, it really just comes down to the fact that, is the game fun, right? And it seems like you guys are gearing down towards this. Like, okay, we need to make the game fun, and then we also need to have a sustainable economy. So it sounds like you guys are definitely looking and thinking about this and trying to pinpoint it. I think that's a great question to ask, because there's not necessarily a right answer, right? There's some games with good open economies, but they're not necessarily open economies yet. So putting all these things together, it definitely will be an experiment. I have two different ways to take this. I'll take it here first. You guys are partnering with a lot of guilds. I've always just been curious about this. Do guilds bring the worry of unsustainable yield farming? I don't necessarily know if a lot of these crypto native guilds are bringing in actual gamers. What are your thoughts on the pros and cons of having guilds and these scholarship programs?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and it's definitely something that I think, we've spent a lot of time thinking about. And, for any other people, designing game economies, you need to take into the consideration that, there will be just farmers or bots out there farming your economy. I think it's naive to think that your economy is going to be sustainable, like that it's going to be profitable, and there's not going to be any bad actors trying to take advantage of that economy. Because at the end of the day, whenever there's money to be made, you're going to have bad actors. You're going to have people trying to bot the system. You're going to have people trying to game the system. I mean, you already have that in traditional games when there's no financial incentive. Now you tack on financial incentives with Web3 gaming. Of course, there's going to be so much like sort of botting and bad actors. So I think what you need to do is you actually need to not sort of like put your head in the sand and just think that it's not going to happen. You actually need to design for it and assume that it's going to happen, and then plan for what you intend on doing once it does happen. So when you come to talk about like guilds and that, obviously there is a thought in the back of everyone's mind that, hey, a guild's just, you know, like yield farmers. Are they just there to farm the economy and then leave? And I think if you look at purely at it in financial senses, then, you know, yes, I would agree there's a degree of that. And so we do have a number of mechanisms in place to minimize the amount of, you know, damage that can be done to our economy via pure farming. And part of that is going to be based on our skill curve. So essentially, just like, you know, I think most games will end up doing is they'll start, you know, scaling the rewards to be higher as the skill of the player increases. I think that obviously makes sense. And obviously for players who are less skilled, it doesn't make sense to reward them in the same way or in the same amount of skilled players. So that's like a natural kind of way to disincentivize like pure mindless, you know, farming. The other thing that we plan on doing, which we're currently like we're just thinking about, we haven't implemented it yet, but is assigning some kind of exit tax within our in-game economy, where if someone wants to convert their earned resources in-game externally, say to Sol or USDT or USDC or whatever, then there's a system where we apply like an exit tax. And that exit tax will be also determined based on potentially factors such as skill, as well as general involvement in the ecosystem. And so things like we what we want to explore is, you know, potentially looking at player behaviors. And if we can track using analytics that a particular account is just doing one repetitive thing over and over again, and they're not, say, you know, they're not interacting with other players, they're not, you know, contributing to the ecosystem, they're not, you know, really trying to grind, or they're not trying to like improve their skills, they're not really doing ranked matches. All they do every day is that they just log on, they do one thing, and then they leave. You know, is there a way to take that analytic, take that behavior, and then apply like a heavier exit tax on, you know, that particular account? So that's something that we're thinking about as well. And that's like my perspective on guilds in a purely financial sense. But there's a whole nother side of guilds getting involved in Web3 gaming, which I think is also very important just beyond the financial aspects. When players play a competitive game and they want to get good at it, one of the main reasons why someone wants to be good at a game is that it's a popular game at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how good you are at game XYZ if there's only 100 people playing in the world, right? It's not impressive. People want to know that for a competitive game that's PvP based and with a high skill cap, they want to know, hey, I'm, you know, top 10 or top 100 in the world, and there's millions of people playing this game and they're all trying to get good, right? And so that's where guilds come in, because they bring the player base. And if we can tie, you know, economy rewards with skill level, then all of those players will also be trying to grind their skill level as well, genuinely. And then for the competitive traditional players that are, you know, playing games like Apex and Fortnite, if they become like the top 10 or top 100 players in that particular in-game ecosystem, and we have all these guilds with their players supporting as well, then essentially they become, you know, the top player in like a massive game ecosystem. And that is more meaningful than being, you know, top player in a game that's rarely played. So I think that's the player mentality that guilds can bring to games.
Yeah, that was extremely well put. I like the idea there, how there's two sides of the coin, right? There's the fact that these guilds are amazing for getting this atomic network, the amount of gamers you need. How much gamers do you need for a battle royale to work? Well, at the very least, you need maybe 60 players in one match. But then if those 60 players are only on one side of the world, what happens if I'm trying to queue up here in the States and the other 60 players? So it's amazing that guilds allow for this bootstrapping to occur fairly easily on top of the in-game incentives. It just always ties back to that idea of, okay, how do we make sure that the economy is still sustainable, that people aren't gaming it? And that also ties back to the fact that, look, there is no perfect answer, but the idea that you guys are looking out for it, looking to use analytics to see how players are earning, what the top earners are and how they're earning so much, all of these things boost my confidence a bit, just to hear that you guys are looking to actively monitor the open economy and understand that people will try to game it. It's not going to be perfect, but it's more so just keeping a pulse on the economy itself and making adjustments if needed. I think this transitions perfectly. Like, let's just get into the play to earn and 2-token model here. You guys have the CTNP and the Nyan token. Is this a similar setup to the successful one we've seen from Axie? If not, do you maybe want to just dive in and outline your thoughts behind it, why you went with the 2-token model versus the one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, to start off with, there are definitely similarities between our token system and that of, say, Axie Infinity and some other games out there. But there are also some pretty significant differences, which I can get into. First off, from a high level, I think, again, I'm not speaking about any games in particular, but I think if you only have a 1-token model, you're immediately set out to failure. I think having a 2-token model has been shown to be successful. It makes sense theoretically as well as practically. So if you think about like what a 2-token model means, you can kind of draw a parallel between, say like a traditional stock, say for example, Riot Games. If Riot Games were to have a stock called Riot, that would be the native token or the governance token, the equivalent of AXS. And then you have your in-game, hard currency or soft currency or whatever you want to call it. Say it's Riot Points. That would be your in-game utility token. It makes zero sense to have one token that does everything. I think that is just destined for failure. So apologies for any gaming projects that do believe in one token system. I just personally don't. And so we do have a 2-token model, NYN, which is our native governance token, and CTNP, which is our in-game utility token. And in many ways, our governance token functions similarly to most governance tokens that you see in gaming projects. You look at Axie or you look at Star Atlas. They very much fill a very similar role in the sense that there is going to be staking. We are going to have governance and consensus mechanisms tied in with ownership of our token. And also token holders will also be able to receive some form of revenue from the game, whether it's via buybacks of the token from in-game treasury, or whether it's just a straight up dispensing of the in-game treasury from in-game marketplace rewards and things like that directly to the token holders. It's going to be one of those models. And so I think that, generally speaking, doesn't really need changing. That governance token setup makes sense. And for the most part, I think it works pretty well.
Yeah.
The thing that I think needs a bit of an overhaul is the utility token design. And obviously we've seen that with things like, SLP, dropping its price by, I don't know how many percentage it is now, but whatever it was a few months ago, it's a lot lower now. And so I think, this is where our 2-token model starts to diverge from most other projects. So our utility token, which is CTNP, what we're actually doing is we're going to functionally convert it into a stable token, an in-game stable token that is pegged to something like the USD. It's not necessarily going to be a one-to-one peg. What we'll probably do is set up something like a 100 CTNP equals 1 USD peg, something like that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be pegged to a currency. And this is important for a number of reasons. The first reason is for people who are looking to purchase our in-game assets, and say they get a portion of CTNP as a part of their purchase. I mean, these people are going to want to know and be assured that after a month or two, if they spend $100 on our in-game assets, that $100 is still worth $100. 2 months down the track, that the value of CTMP hasn't gone from 50 to 25, and now suddenly the $100 that you spent in game is now only worth $50. Like, that would be terrible especially for a traditional gamer. If you think about people buying packs for Riot Points, for example, they spend $100 for Riot Points. Imagine that, a month later, what you could previously purchase with those Riot Points, now you can only purchase half of what you could. Like, that would just turn people off from buying them completely. So it is specifically designed from a gamer's perspective that it retains its value. Same reason for earning players. Like, they want to know, for the yield farmers, for example, they want to know that if we're on average getting, $100 a month, let's say, for example, that next month we're not going to suddenly worry that we're going to get $20 when the amount of tokens hasn't actually changed, so the value has changed. So that's one reason. The second reason is, for an in-game utility token, which is like a soft currency of the game, you really want people who are transacting that token to be gamers in your in-game ecosystem. You don't want outside players like whales or big institutions artificially pumping or dumping a coin based on some kind of speculatory market condition. At the end of the day, you have your governance token, you have your native token. That's the speculatory one. If you want to speculate on the value of a stock like Tesla, you go buy the Tesla shares. You can pump it, you can dump it, you can short it, whatever. It doesn't matter. But for an in-game token, it doesn't make any sense to have these outside parties come in and artificially influence the price, because at the end of the day, this token is deeply tied into your in-game economy. So why should something external be able to affect the value of your in-game economy? So that's the second reason why it's super important to have something that's stable. At the end of the day, in our world, even though we do have crypto and all these different coins floating around, there's still a need to create these stable coins like USDC, USDT, UST. People are still, at the end of the day, they need to transact in something that's stable. And I believe this is true for an in-game economy as well. And I believe this is true for any metaverse project that is wanting to kind of, launch in the future. And so what we're doing is we're actually adopting a model that's very similar to protocols like Terra Luna or Frax, if you guys are familiar.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing is basically the Frax model. So essentially, when our game economy starts, we're going to fully collateralize our own CTMP with our own treasury of USDC. So it's going to be one-to-one backed. If people want to sell their CTMP for USDC, that's completely fine. We'll be able to fully collateralize it with our own treasury. Ideally, what then happens is, as our game takes up steam, we pick up more daily active users, we slowly start to transition some of that collateralization from USDC to our native token, NYN, via an algorithmic stable token mechanic in a very similar way to Frax and Terra Luna. And so I don't want to get too in-depth into how they work, but read their white paper, read their token design. It's very, very good. That's essentially what we plan on doing with our dual token system. So as demand for CTMP increases, we will slowly start to transition the collateralization over to NYN. What that does is we'll increase our elastic supply of CTMP, and that will have an opposite effect on the supply of NYN. It'll actually provide deflationary pressures on the NYN token supply. And so what that does for our holders is it actually provides extra value for our NYN holders. Because as you can imagine, when a game sort of daily active user increases, the demand for our stable token increases, the price of our native token should theoretically increase. Prior to all of these designs, there's no direct link between the game economy and the native token. But now, via our algorithmic design, we can actually intrinsically link our in-game user base with the value of our native token, which I think is quite nice.
No, that was great. I was literally getting on. I was like, okay, this is sweet. The idea of a peg token, but how are you guys going to peg it? You nailed it right on there. I don't think we need to get too far into something like the Frax or Terra model, but I think what's incredibly key is the fact that you guys are looking to peg it to your treasury 1-to-1 from the beginning. And as you start to catch traction, then you can leverage this flywheel of using Nyan as collateral. And that way it literally has that effect that you were talking about. CNTP is still stable, and then users that are holding Nyan have this deflationary pressure. I'm just curious to add on, there's a couple things here. Do you guys have measures? Obviously, if CNTP starts trading above the peg, I imagine you just do the classic of minting more of these tokens. If CNTP falls beneath the peg, are you guys thinking of doing something of maybe increasing the USD treasuries to try to get and incentivize users to bring that back up to the peg? Because further down the line, you guys might get to a system where it's maybe 80-20%. So 80% USDC, 20% NYN. Have you thought about a way of incentivizing the peg back up to $1 in a scenario where it falls beneath once the collateralization isn't 100% USDC?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially once we start implementing the algorithmic collateralization, whether it's 10%, 20%, 30%, it doesn't really matter. We that gives us a buffer to then decrease that should the price fall below. So we can decrease that buffer all the way back down to becoming fully collateralized if we need to. That's not a problem, because at the end of the day, we don't necessarily think that any economy, any token, any coin is just going to go up only. I mean, it would be nice, of course, but it's gonna fluctuate. And so once we reach a certain amount of collateralization, we're not going to be beholden to that. Like we can remain flexible. We can decrease the amount of collateralization by algorithmic tokens if necessary. We don't anticipate that we'll ever need to go back down to a fully one-to-one collateralization with USDC. If that is the case, then we can actually do that, but we don't think that will happen. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what we.
That's awesome. Like, that is actually really exciting. I like that you guys are taking what works, and then, okay, you saw the issue with SLP. You understand that, okay, this doesn't really make sense. We get it that it's supposed to be a soft in-game currency, but how can we make this more stable? And I think the analogy of like you buying 1,000 riot points and then a week, 2 weeks later, they're 30-40% less is an amazing analogy. So I'm excited to see how this plays out. And I think the key things here is you guys are borrowing from models that have worked in the past and really looking to incorporate it on your own thing. And you're not, again, this ties back to the same thing. And I think it's just important to note in open economies, there's no playbook for this, but seeing that you guys are looking at what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked, and looking to put your own improvements on it really just gets me excited. And I want to see how this all ends up playing out. To get further in here, I'm curious of just other in-game assets that we'll have. I was going through the white paper and I saw you guys have weapons, a plethora of cores, materials, and then obviously the Genesis Nyans as well, but we can get into that after. What are the roles of the weapons, cores, materials inside of the economy? And are those going to be a little bit further down the line, or can we expect some of those in the PvP Battle Royale?
Yeah, so for the PvP, the in-game assets are mostly going to be your Guardian mechs that you can play with, and then the cores. Essentially, the Guardian cores, what we have designed is a way for people who are playing the game to randomly get these. Oh, I think my
yeah, we lost your
camera. My camera died.
No worries. You can just throw up a profile picture real quick if you want, or you can just keep going with it. Not the end of the world.
Yeah, maybe we'll just keep going because I can't figure out how to throw up a profile picture.
Yeah, no worries. We'll just keep going. We're getting towards the end of my questions anyway.
Okay, all right, no worries. Yeah, so the function of a Guardian core is essentially it's a dropped item at the end of matches. It's a randomly dropped item. Of course, the rates of drop will be higher if you perform better, if you win, obviously. And what we essentially creating with these cores is that once players collect a certain amount of cores, whether it's 25 or whether it's 50. We haven't fully decided on the actual amount yet. They'll be able to then combine these cores with a portion of our in-game utility token plus our native token, and they'll be able to mint an entirely new Guardian NFT. So the Guardian cores correspond to the Guardian NFTs. The Nyan cores correspond to your Nyan avatars.
Awesome.
So those will be, the in-game assets for PvP.
And just a differentiation there. What is the difference between the Guardians and the Nyans then?
Yep. So the Guardians are actually your in-game playable characters, and the Nyans are sort of linked to your player profile in-game. So, when you create a Steam account, create a player profile, you often get asked to choose an icon, for example. You could use your own picture, or you could use like a set picture. So basically, our Nyans will essentially act as our player profiles, and the Guardians are actually your in-game characters.
Awesome. And via playing, there will be cores that are dropped at the end of the matches that allow you to upgrade the both of these.
Yes.
What you guys have already released then, these are the Genesis Nyans. And can you jump into why these are special and what these will unlock for players in the future? To my understanding, holding a Genesis Nyan will get you an airdrop of a Guardian once the gameplay gets a little bit closer. Is that correct?
Yes. So holding a Genesis Nyan will actually allow you to get an airdrop of 2 Genesis Guardian mechs, one of which will be released in a month or 2, and then another set will be released probably 6 to 9 months from now. And basically, the Genesis Nyans are our access pass to essentially every piece of content and purchasable asset in our ecosystem. So when we were designing these Genesis NFTs, we were thinking, look, we could make a like a mint pass, for example. They do essentially function as a mint pass, and we could just design one that looks like a card or whatever it is that some of these other projects are doing. But what we really wanted to do was make it unique, so that once the mint pass aspects were deployed, there would still be something valuable to the original owner. And so that was the original idea behind our Genesis NFTs. Is that's why we wanted to create these like cute little character profiles as well, rather than just having like a boring old mint pass design. But then the idea kind of really grew from that. So not only did it become, the mint pass for our Guardian mechs, but it also became, the whitelisting token for our land pre-sales. It also became we've implemented grape verification into our Discord, obviously, but we'll also be able to track ownership and, essentially determine who will be allowed access to our, early access beta testing. And obviously that'll be, amongst, our early supporters and our guilds. Aside from that, we are actually currently in the process of this is a bit of an alpha leak, by the way. Like we haven't really announced it or mentioned it to anyone.
We're ready for it.
But we're currently in the process of designing a DAO for our NFT holders, and I can't say too much at the moment, but what I can say is that the rewards for holding an NFT and participating in our DAO and the governance associated with our DAO sort of mechanics, there will be a lot of rewards for our early Genesis NFT holders. And so that's currently what we're designing at the moment. And so once the DAO structure is formalized, we'll end up with our own high council for the Nyan DAO, and we'll make an announcement. We'll do a Medium post, and so everyone will be able to read exactly what the benefits will be for being a holder in the DAO. But we're safe to say we're really excited about the benefits and the potential like community building aspects of that.
No, I think the aspects of a DAO, just while we're here, is great, and it really transforms that idea of decentralization and puts the games a lot more into the player, puts the game a lot more into the players themselves' hands, which is always a really big thing, right? You even have Vitalik talking things about like one of the reasons he made Ethereum was because he had this item I might be mistaken, but he had an item in World of Warcraft. It got absolutely gutted, and he was like, well, this is great. I don't see the point of playing this game anymore. Whether that item was OP or not, I guess that's up for discussion. But the idea of the DAO really lets more of the users get a bigger say in what's going on in the game. And we see that a lot in traditional gaming, where a lot of players just get infuriated by patches and updates that were put out. And who knows if the users will be any better, but things like the rise and fall of Overwatch, just seeing how players get fed up with patches, I think the DAO starts to lean in and looks for a solution to those problems. And then circling back to the Genesis now, and I think that's just really exciting that the users who decide to support early will get access to all of these features, whether it's the expeditions for the staking and earning CTMP or getting the Guardians.
I didn't even mention that.
I remembered that one because I have a couple here out on expedition. So definitely remembered that. I'm also seeing in chat here, I'm curious. I'm going to push the envelope a little. People are saying, wow, you're saying that the Genesis NFT really rewards early supporters. Have you guys thought about allowing it to get access to not only the land sale, but the IDO as well? Has that been a thought?
So it has been a thought. What I can say is that there were some... Okay, this is like a pretty difficult area to navigate. But what Definitely. I can say is that we've thought about rewarding our early supporters with access to our IDO. We're actually like through... All I can say at the moment is that through our DAO and through some of the initiatives that we're going to be implementing through the DAO, through, to our NFT supporters and our early supporters and our NFT holders, is it's actually going to be better than getting access to the IDO. That's all I can say.
No, that's great. I like that answer. It pretty much means participating in the DAO, really looking to make a difference, jump in, will have the rewards that some of these dedicated users are looking for. So everyone in chat, definitely stay tuned for that. It sounds like there's some exciting things, and I'll stop pushing the envelope there on Max. I will jump out, and I want to zoom out a little bit. It's very easy to get caught up in a magnifying glass here in Web3 and crypto and really zoom in on really the granular things. You guys have a 2-year roadmap. Do you maybe want to start outlining where you think some of these bigger features will start to roll out, potentially just a ballpark area when you guys are looking to get out Battle Royale, and then just in general things that you're excited for overall?
Yeah. Well, we actually have a 4-year plus roadmap.
Okay.
But I think what's been shared so far is the condensed version. So, we've obviously, I think if you check our website, you'll see a relatively up-to-date sort of progress report on some of the things that we've completed in our roadmap and the things that are yet to complete. But what I can share with at the moment, from this current point in time, is that, we do have our public IDO coming up soon, most likely in Feb, is what I can say at the moment. Following that, obviously, listing on various DEXs and centralized exchanges as well, followed by, staking of our native token. In terms of the actual gameplay, we plan on launching a playable vertical slice demo in the next 4 to 6 months, hopefully closer to the 4-month mark, but I do want to give us a little bit of wiggle room. And then in terms of the actual full playable game alpha, we plan on launching that at the end of the year.
Awesome. Yeah, and I just went ahead and pulled up this roadmap here so people can visualize and see what you have here as well.
So that's basically like the short-term roadmap for our Battle Royale game mode. And then essentially, after that's up and running, we'll be able to essentially split off into 2 teams. So one team will be responsible for live ops of the Battle Royale. So basically updates, patches, new characters, new maps, things like that for the existing Battle Royale. And then the other team will be able to start working on our open world MMO kind of PvE gameplay. So, the date for that is most likely going to be towards the end of 2023 or early 2024. And then much like games like Minecraft and Fortnite, where they do actually allow their players to contribute to the in-game ecosystem via their SDK framework that they've implemented in the game. That's kind of what we want to do with Nyan as well, like much later down the track. So this is 2024 type time frame. So yeah, those are kind of like 3 high level milestones that we have. So first up is the battle royale, second is the open world, third is the SDK framework for users generating their own content.
Yeah, that sounds extremely exciting, and just seeing that the game is really right around the corner is something to look forward to. I'm definitely looking forward to it. While we're here, I want to ask the chat if they have any questions. I'm starting to wrap up here. Someone, David in here, is asking if there's any plans to market the gameplay on traditional game media sites, etc. I'm going to take that a step further. And what is your guys' main plan of attack or strategy for getting traditional gamers onto your platform? And I think a big thing is just building a good game, right? Which we've been talking about for the past hour, but maybe you can address David's question and then take it a step further. What is sort of the idea of attracting traditional gamers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of marketing, we do tend to, adopt a multi-pronged approach. When it comes to things like, getting articles or, information or deep dives published on like traditional media, honestly speaking, I gotta say, like, I'm not a huge fan. Like, it's great to get something published on, CoinMarketCap, CoinDesk or Cointelegraph, for example. But whether that really translates or not is, I think it's still up for debate. Our approach up until this date has been really sort of grassroots focused and community building focused. Like, we're talking with people in the community, people on Twitter, the Web3 community. We're engaging with them directly. Like, I don't know how many personal like calls I've been on with various people in the Solana ecosystem, for example, just without any necessarily, like, without any goal. For example, like, we don't pay for our marketing. We never do. We don't pay shillers. If we have so many people like messaging us, hey, can we, do you want promotion for your thing? It's this much. We don't deal with that. All we do, all my focus has been all this time is just to chat with people, chat with like-minded individuals that are bullish about Web3, bullish about Web3 gaming, and looking for projects with a long-term outlook. And my focus is just finding these people, sharing them information about our project, what kind of vision that we have, what we're building. And then it's completely up to them whether they want to talk about us or not. I mean, thankfully, we've been able to meet some really, really great people in the space. And obviously crypto is such like an amazing community that we found people that are then willing to share our project with their own community, because at the end of the day, they want their community to win too. And so that's kind of been our approach in terms of marketing. In terms of like getting traditional gamers to play our game, as you mentioned, it's making a good game to start with. But obviously my co-founder, you guys may or may not know her. She's pretty big influencer, and she's very well connected with a lot of influencers in the traditional space. So she knows all the the big like Twitch streamers, for example. She's well connected with various esports organizations like 100 Thieves, FaZe Clan, TSM. Chats with all of them, been to their HQs and all that stuff, met the whole team. So we do have a lot of traditional gaming connections that we can leverage, and I really do think that platforms like Twitch and YouTube gaming are going to be our main focuses, because at the end of the day, that's where the real community is. I don't think you'll find a lot of the real community on things, like, I mean, I used to watch and read IGN, but I don't even know what the value of having an article on them is anymore at this point. I'd much rather, get like a, speak to a streamer that is, really passionate about, Web3 gaming, and then just, see if there's any interest, see if our interests align, and then see where it takes us.
Yeah, that sounds like a really unique but thought out approach, especially having a lot of these connections. It sounds like you guys are on the right track and really thinking about, okay, where is our time best spent? Does it matter if we're pushing really hard to do certain marketing, or should we really just be building and focusing on the dedicated people, not like media or users who are going to just gloss right over? So I think that's great. We have a couple other questions here. Wei Wee is asking, will Genesis Guardian mechs be tradable on secondary markets? I would imagine
Yes, they
yes.
will. Yes,
Yep.
yes.
And then will there be skins, mech customizations, etc., coloring, things like that? Does that start getting into the Guardian cores where you can start upgrading the skins?
So the skins will actually be via a different mechanic to the Guardian cores, but yes to all of the above. We're going to have skins for our mechs. We're going to have color chromas available. We're also going to be implementing decals that are basically going to function like football, like team jerseys that people can place on their mechs, whether they're from a guild. You can have your guild decal representing on your mech in game, or if people just want to set up their own, like I want to have a system where people can design their own, decals to place on their mechs.
Awesome. And then JM is asking for the utility for the participation token. I'm not quite sure what you're asking there, whether you're the utility for CTNP or the utility for Nyan. We did touch pretty extensively.
They're talking about the fair launch protocol participation token that went out for our public sale. So basically we haven't revealed the utility for that token yet. But what we want to do essentially is, whilst we're creating a blockchain game, let's just say that we have a lot more ambitions than just creating a game. Like we've seen what obviously Riot Games have done around League, and they've obviously created a whole brand around it. They've created an animated series. They've created other offshoot games. They've created music. And I think that is something that is really exciting from our perspective as well. And so we are actually currently speaking to a number of musicians. We're also speaking to a number of fashion label creators. And we're really excited about the potential of creating an entire subculture that is attached to our game. So, I mean, obviously, basic things like starts with merch, but, we do see it sort of extending into other cultures like music, lifestyle, things like that. And so what we really want to do is somehow integrate our participation token into involvement with building the culture around our game, like these lifestyle components, whether it's merch related or something else. We haven't fully decided yet, but whether it's a discount on something or whether it's an entry to something else, we're still thinking about.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting. And just for my own sake and anyone who may not know, the participation token, are those just rewarded to early community contributors?
So they were rewarded to anyone that participated in our fair launch protocol sale. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Looks like I'll take a couple more questions here. Zan is asking if these skins and NFTs will be tradable. For the most part, yes. The Guardians and the mechs. Will creators be able to participate in customizable skins and decals?
So in terms of customizable skins, I'm not sure about. I can't confirm that will be possible. Maybe. We definitely want to keep that option open. We're not closing any doors. In terms of decals, I definitely think so, because that is something that is pretty easy to implement. So yes to decals, maybe to skins.
Awesome. So I think that wraps everything up here. Max, I'm just going to ask you one more question. It kind of circles back to something before, but what are you genuinely most excited for coming up? It could be something right around the corner. It could be something in the next 2 years. What are you really set on and looking forward to that's coming up for Nyan Heroes?
Personally, I'm really excited to showcase our trailer. We've been working on it for a little while now, and it's just I think it's gonna be really, really cool. We're using our in-game assets I think the trailer itself is going to be obviously rendered in engine, but the rendering is going to be quite nice. But yeah, like that's something that we've been working on for a while now. Super excited. We have a number of studios working on it. One of them is a studio that works closely with Marvel and Lucasfilm. So yeah, we think it's going to be a blast. That's going to come out in 4 to 6 weeks, actually. Yeah,
Awesome.
just before our public sale.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really exciting. And we'll cap it off there, Max. I really appreciate you for joining. And we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on what's going on with Nyan Heroes over here at Solana News. So we'll be expecting a ton of news to be coming in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Awesome. So that was amazing, guys. We had Max Fu, the founder of Nyan Heroes, join us today, and he really gave us a deep dive on the platform and what they're looking to do with Web3 gaming. I think some of the most notable things that Max mentioned was just how they're looking to build on top of previously successful models. They're really shooting for a AAA game. They want to attract gamers. They understand that gaming needs to be fun. It's not just this play to earn zombie sort of thing. So those were two things that stood out. And then the really big thing that stood out to me is they're not rushing to development. And two, they understand the delicacy of an open economy. They're looking to improve on models like Axie we touched on and actually peg their in-game token. So through all those things, I'm just really excited to watch Nyan Heroes continue to build. I myself actually own a couple of these Genesis Nyans, so I'll be following closely, as well as the entire team here at Solana News. So for anyone and everyone who enjoyed this stream, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe. I'm seeing some people asking when will the next AMA be. So we're definitely going to be looking to have Max and maybe even someone else from Nyan Heroes back on here soon. So just stay tuned. Again, please like, subscribe to the video if you like the content. We have tons more coming out, and it's not only Solana based. We actually do have a very exciting Traders to Gamers series going live tomorrow. And we're going to be playing Mini Royale Nations for the better half of the entire season, at least a month. So definitely tune into that. With that being said, I will catch you guys tomorrow, and peace out, everyone.